So I'll just start off by introducing you, and then we can dive into questions. We've had some people submit questions as well. So
Okay, awesome. I'll do my
we'll
best.
just, we'll just dive right in. So this is my friend. I love Heather. Heather Cluff is a mom of 5, one of who was married last weekend, right?
Yes, my oldest got married. It's crazy. I'm getting old.
That's so exciting. So Heather started getting into photography about 16 years ago when her 3rd child was born, and she fell in love with video along the way, which we're so glad she did, and you did,
Yep,
because you have such amazing tips. She loves the power of story and believes that family history work is the happiest work, and I haven't heard it described that way, and I love it because that's
it
how I
is.
feel too. And something else really powerful that Heather believes is that journaling is not a burden, but journaling lifts the burdens. And I love that.
Yes,
That spoke right to my heart. So thank
yes.
you again for being here. We're just going to dive into our questions.
Okay.
So tell us how you got started journaling. Have you always journaled? What has the process been for you?
I actually haven't always journaled. If you would have told me that I would have been handwriting in a journal, I would have never believed you because I hate writing. It took too long. I didn't like it. And so I really haven't always journaled. It's just been kind of over the last little while. But I guess digital journaling, I've always liked to take pictures. I started taking pictures in high school. I remember back in the day when they did film. And I took pictures and then video. And of course, that's why I like digital journaling, because you can add all of those aspects into it. But yeah, I have not always been, but you got to get converted at some point, right?
So it doesn't matter if you haven't been a lifelong journaler, right? You can start whenever.
No,
Start now, right?
not at all. Nope. You just have to start and start somewhere.
Cool. And why did you start? How has journaling helped you in your life?
Well, I'll go into this a little bit, and I have some notes here that I'm going to be looking at. But so some of you know that I did a presentation on digital journaling at Roots Tech. So when you have to speak on something, you really you're thinking, okay, I really got to figure out what my whys are for this. I have to figure out why I'm journaling, why I think other people should journal, all of these whys. And so it came down to kind of 4 different things, but this is going to be different for everyone. And people just have to find that why in order to continue, journaling. I'll just go through these kind of quickly, but the first one is it helps me live a more inspired life. So that could be an inspired life creatively, as far as ideas. It could be an inspired life as far as religiously, connecting with heaven or connecting with God. It just helps you to live a more inspired life. Also helps me to live a more intentional, focused life. I'm the queen of distraction, like getting distracted with things. And so I think when you journal, it just helps you to stay focused on the things that matter, focus on the things that you want, and not get so distracted with everything else going on around you, because the world is full of distractions. Also, it just helps you to be able to leave something behind for your grandkids, your great-grandkids. I mean, if you just think about what the world is like right now and what it's going to be like in 20 years from now, when I'm not, I guess hopefully I won't die in 20 years, but when I'm gone, it's just a different year, a different time than when my grandparents lived. And so digital journaling is just a way that you can leave these things behind for all of these kids that are technology driven and are just so familiar with technology. And then the last thing is it helps me process my feelings, process my thoughts, just process and work through things. So that's kind of a quick rundown, but there's,
I love it.
you could name a ton of ways, why journaling helps. So.
Yeah, I love that. And so, so you mentioned like digital journaling, but then at the beginning you talked about like writing. Like, what type of journals do you have right now? Do you keep some digital, some handwritten? What does it look like right now for you during the pandemic?
So right now I do have a digital journal, and with a digital journal you can add video, photos, text, and voice recordings. So I do have a digital journal, and what's been interesting is lately I've actually been writing more. Um, I've kind of given myself a goal to write a page a day. I don't always do that, but there's something about handwriting, just pen to paper, as you write, that just helps get your feelings out. And this could work differently for different people depending on what you're going through. I mean, it's a super hard time right now for a lot of us for a lot of different reasons. And this is a way of just helping us process through what we're feeling, what we're going through. It can help you process, relationships that you're having. Maybe you're having a struggle with a relationship with someone. Writing just, it slows you down. So digital journaling is kind of a quick way, helps you tell your story. Writing kind of helps you just slow down and process things. Um, just thinking about like sometimes I will write my prayers out in the morning. So I basically will just be like I'm talking to God, and as you do that, you can receive that revelation that comes and those answers that you can get, or it could be creatively, like I talked about before, but just writing that down and saying, talking to him like, I'm having a problem with this. I'm struggling with how to get through this aspect of my life right now. I wonder why I'm feeling like that. I mean, you can literally just write out anything, whatever thoughts come to your mind. And then as inspiration comes, then you write that out, just like you're just talking like, oh, I need to do this, or I should try this. And there's something about putting that on paper that helps it's kind of like if you imagine like this scribble above your head. I saw this on Instagram or somewhere, a picture that resonated with me. But if you imagine this scribble above your head of just stuff just going on in your head, life is so busy, there's so many distractions, there's so much going through your head. But you take that scribble and then you put it all on paper, and it's kind of like taking that stress out of your head and just setting it right on that paper, and you can start to let it go. So that I use written journal and digital journaling, in different ways. I also, some people think that journaling has to be a certain way, but I'm like always writing out my ideas for my business. I have like a million business ideas in my head all the time. And so I'm always like writing out, okay, this is how I can do this is how I can do that. There's something about putting that visually on paper helping you to see it, because I'm a very visual person, a very visual learner. I think that's why I love video and photography so much. But yeah, there's just all kinds of ways that you can use journaling.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love how you said there's different purposes and reasoning. Maybe the written is more therapeutic and to help us
Yes.
get it out and to process. But I also loved how you said the digital journaling is a great way to connect with our kids. Like my kids love video. It's fantastic. And I love how on your Instagram feed you have the most like amazing pictures of your kids. Like what a great way to record a part of their story and their childhood. So
Yeah.
I think that's so key. Yeah.
And I think it changes throughout your life, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like there might be some point like that you're just totally gung-ho into digital journaling, and then there are some points when you're like, I really need more of this therapeutic therapy that comes out of writing things out. And so I guess I just want people to know that things ebb and flow, because they ebb and flow for me. I'm not just like right now, when I was preparing my my presentation, it was like I was just gung ho, into that. And then I kind of like, sometimes my personality is gung ho and then burnout. I'm just like, oh. So you kind of have to take things in stride, let it ebb and flow. Don't force yourself to do just every single thing, every part of journaling at once. Let yourself just enjoy the different parts of it, and maybe even different parts of your life, and without a ton of pressure to have to do everything.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. And that's one of the huge things we're trying to focus on in the experiment. There's no one right way to do it, and give
Yes,
yourself credit for what you're doing. Like if you're taking a
totally.
picture,
Stop feeling
like
guilty and just
yes,
start doing something. That's
yeah.
when you start to feel it.
Oh, 100%. So, one of the questions that was asked in our Instagram stories, it was pretty basic, but it's a great question. It is, so what exactly is journal or digital journaling? Like how does one do it?
How do
We
you even
record a
start?
video. Yeah, how do we
How
start?
do you even start?
Where do we
Um,
compile everything? So maybe give us some tips for beginners who haven't done a digital journal before.
yeah, yeah. So the digital journal app that I use is called Journey, and you'll see it in the App Store. It's a blue square. It's called Journey, and it's awesome because it's a place where you can add video, and you can add photos, and you can add voice recordings that you've done, and you can add text. And even, I just think about technology now, like not too long ago, people couldn't really even do video without having all of this equipment. You'd have to have some serious stuff to be able to do this. And everybody can do this just literally in the palm of your hand. You can take great photos, videos. You don't even have to text it. You can just record and your phone will actually dictate it for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just crazy how easy it is to just get things down. Digital journaling is awesome because it's so quick, and so it helps you actually do it. So, if you are, maybe you aren't a handwritten person and you don't work through your feelings that way. You maybe you like talking things out. So, for example, a way that you could get out your feelings is maybe you literally just talk. You just record
Mm-hmm.
yourself talking through. And I was talking to my hairdresser, and she said that's she talks to herself,
Yeah.
kind of like this conversation if you're trying to work something out with somebody. But you could even just record yourself. I'm having this problem. Like, what do what? Why am I feeling this way? There's so many ways that you can kind of use technology to do those things. But so the Journey app, I actually have a course that I'm going to be launching that'll have, how to do all of these things. But it's the thing about digital journaling is it's just like if you were to have a scrapbook where you had pictures and written word, and you had this book. A digital journal is just a digital way of keeping all of those things kind of in a book, but it's even more, well, maybe not more awesome. I know that things that are printed are awesome too, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
a place that you can quickly get to, and it's all in one place. And I think that's the great part about it. And then you can share that with your kids. They can scroll through. The awesome thing that I love about Journey is that you can actually tag your posts. So if your kids wanted to go in, so I would put a tag for like each of my kids and my husband and myself, and you can put tags for whatever. So I would go in and, let's say that it was about my oldest son getting married. His name's Caleb. So I would, if I wanted to post a picture from his wedding and tell a little bit about how it went, maybe I record my feelings or how it went. And then I can actually tag that post with his name. So then when your kids go back to look at it, they can look up their tag, Caleb, and it will show all of the posts that are about them. So it's just it's just different than, with a written journal, there's only one of them, right? you can't, you can distribute it kind of more one at a time, but there's only one of them where, you can kind of share this with your kids in a way that is relatable to them. And that's the thing, is you have to think of the end in mind. Like, why are you doing this? Who is this for? Who's going to be reading this? Who's going to be looking at this? And if it's your great grandkids, they're probably going to want to look on the phone rather than in your journals. I mean, if we're being honest.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, digital is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I need to make the jump, because I took your class in Roots Tech, and I loved it. I think there's so much power there. And it just sounds so simple to do, and it's probably something we're kind of doing anyway.
Yes, for
so
sure. We're taking pictures all day long, right?
Right, and videos. So if there was a cute video of my 3-year-old, I can just upload it right into that Journey app and write a little caption, and I'm done.
And tag it with
And tag it. That's easy, and that's just one small, simple step to something that I'm already doing anyway, and then it's not lost in the Google, archives that
I know
that we might not use. I know, and then your phone dies. Will it disappear? I don't know. So it's nice. It's awesome. It seems so doable. So another question for you. Do any of your kids journal? Have any of them caught the bug? Do they enjoy it too?
I know. I looked at this question. I'm like, shoot.
It's okay. It's okay.
They are not awesome journalers. I mean, I think the key to that is helping them to do something that's normal and natural to them. They like to take pictures, right? They like to have their pictures taken when they get to be teenagers. When they were young, I had to beg them to take their pictures, and now they beg me to take their pictures. So I think the key is just what are they already doing, maybe, and just help them organize it in a digital journal. Or maybe I just need to say it in a different way, even maybe you call it something else that is more, something that they would be interested in. But some kids, I think, like to journal, and they love handwritten stuff, or they love doing videos. My 16-year-old loves to do videos. And so that's kind of his thing. And my 18-year-old likes to take pictures. So help just encourage them in the way that they seem to already be enjoying, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Meet them where they're at. It doesn't have to be a new big scary, we have to do this thing. I love how you talked about it sounded like you include them in your own journaling and your own process, taking pictures when they're young. And so I think that models it for them as well. They're already part of the journaling process. They just don't know it yet.
And one thing I want to mention, in my digital journal, so I'm a photographer and a videographer, so I have some issues with perfectionism for sure when it comes to that stuff, because that's what I do, right? But in my journal, in your journal, you just let it all go. I feel like in your personal journal, so what I like about having a digital journal is, rather than just having, say you put it on Instagram, is that you're just more real in your journal. You're more real. You're less, you don't feel like you have to put filters and make everything pretty and perfect. You're just like, this is my real life. You snap a picture, and it's, for me, I guess photography and video, there's a side where you make pretty pictures, right? And then there's also a side where you document things. That's kind of, there's two different sides to that for me. If I'm going to document something that I want to remember, I just take a picture of it, and then you just say, this is why. And if you have the words behind why, you could take a picture of, let's just say, one of your kids making pancakes in the morning. If you don't put the words why, maybe that was the first time they've ever done it, and maybe you felt so proud of them that that was something that they started to enjoy doing, or whatever it is. The story kind of behind the picture makes it come to life, and you can do that in this journal and not feel like you can just, all of the prettiness and all the perfectionism can just go away, because this is your real life and these are my real feelings, and I don't have to impress anyone. It's just me. And there's something so freeing and refreshing about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it reminded me of your Roots Tech presentation. I think you had a story about your husband helping someone like change a tire or something, and you documented that story. Like, it's not a like someone changing a tire. Like, that's not an exciting Instagram picture necessarily.
Right.
But I remember, like, okay, so that was back in February, March. I still remember this story.
Yeah.
Like, it was an awesome story of someone being neighborly. And I think that's something great for our kids to see and our kids to read. So I love that. So good. Okay, so I'm so inspired by the wall behind you. All of those ancestor pictures. I want an ancestor wall. It's so good. I love that. I just see these happy ancestors.
Do you want to see it?
Oh my gosh, you guys, check this out. Okay.
I thought this was a pretty fitting background for today, right?
That is perfect. I love it so, so much. So switching gears a little bit, and so another question, and I didn't tell you this one before, so it's a surprise.
Oh boy.
Here we go. Did any of your ancestors write journals? Were you ever able to read any of their journals if they kept them?
You know what's interesting is a while back my sister had, because I'm kind of the family, the one that's probably the most into family history in my family, but then my sister told me she'd started reading these stories about my my great-grandpa and grandma. And so then I got on there and I started reading them, and figured out that they had just been posted like not too long before. And I just loved reading those stories about them. And she's kind of a character, my grandma. And my grandpa just had these amazing stories that I even, for a little bit, I had my daughter, for part of her reading, read these stories about, I mean, think about it. They've got to read, they're supposed to read for 20 minutes. They may as well be reading. My wheels
are like turning. My wheels are turning. I'm totally doing that for a reading now.
I mean, I kind of forgot what your original question was. It, what stories have I found about?
If your ancestors have kept journals, and if there were any stories in them that you enjoyed.
So maybe I won't go off on it, but just a story about like my grandpa, how he had to go off to work, and he's like, the cow is over there like on the railroad, and so my grandma just has to run over there and is standing like on the railroad trying to get this cow out of the way. And I don't know, it's just funny. And like kids, actually it wasn't, I was like, Grandma, what are you doing? Like, why are you saying the train is coming? Because there's a train coming. And anyway, but stories like that help your kids get interested in their lives more. And my husband's great grandpa, I guess it would be, he kind of had a journal that's been interesting because it was somebody interviewing him. So it was written out like his, the question and then his response. And I found out some things about him that were pretty interesting. And Cluff, we have a Cluff family journal that it's been interesting to read through things that have happened. I mean, if you don't know if your family has written journals, I mean, there's ways of reaching out to think about who in your family would be most into it and say, hey, do we have a family journal? Or do you know if so-and-so kept a journal? Or do you know who would have it? Who's the family historian and who's the one that kind of keeps all these things? One thing I was doing for a while, and I'm not perfect at this, but I have a morning routine. And as part of that morning routine, I would spend 2 minutes thinking about family history, doing something. And what that does is it helps you to stay into family history. It helps you thinking about it. I mean, think about if you're into something every day for even a thought, even just 2 minutes,
Yeah.
then maybe you start reading a story and then you're like, oh, I got to find out some more about this. And then it turns into
Yeah.
longer. But I think the initial step of just starting to do something is that hurdle that we have to like, whoa, because we think we have to have a bunch of time, but just like, I'm just going to think about family history for 2 minutes. And maybe that's reading something about an ancestor. And maybe that's just looking around in family tree. Maybe it's even just thinking about a loved one who's passed on. Maybe it's praying about a loved one, or, you know, it could be anything, but just even adding 2 minutes of your life to just thinking about family history would make a huge difference.
I love that. I love that because we've got 2 minutes, even if it's like in the car or waiting for your
Yeah.
kid to come out of the school. Like we have the Family
Yep.
Tree app. We can do some serious scrolling there. So I love that. Just 2 minutes, and it can totally bless other people as well, make their days brighter. My cousin messaged me journal entries that her mom wrote when we were little. So like it mentions me when I'm like 2 or 3, and I just
And you're
loved
just
it.
like,
It
that's
made me,
me.
that's me in it. Like, and it's just these small mentions, but I'm like, I don't have a lot written from when I was 3 years old. So I love it.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to like kind of make other people happy too.
Yep.
Um, so, and I love that 2 minutes. I think that's so smart. Um, what are your, well, and I might know the answer to this already. What are some other ways that you enjoy doing family history? Like you're an amazing journaler and digital journaler. What are some of your other favorite things to do with family history?
Um, well, you know, I've never been good at research. Like I just research. You guys can probably relate with this. It's just like, I don't know how to do it. I just anyway. So the roadblock of being able to like find someone, if someone can help you get you to a place on your tree where you can find someone, then you just are feeling like $1,000,000. Like it's just there's this feeling of just pure joy when you're doing that, that you just found these people that you didn't know about, or that, you know, there's something about being able to find these people. And I mean, that's what I would just suggest. So this and this is what's happening and what about this, and she's just been so nice to do that. So, you know, over this pandemic time, obviously people haven't been able to kind of have that close contact as much, and so it's just something over Marco Polo where you can just ask someone a question if you're stuck, or even on Family Search. I mean, there's always people to help on Family Search, but I have I kind of go through waves, and I need to pick that up again because I know how much happiness it brings me, and I need to pick that up again. But you kind of just get busy in life doing other things. But I've learned to really enjoy researching because of that feeling that I get when I do it. It's just this happiness that you can't get any other way.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think there's times and seasons, you know. Sometimes we're going to be researchers, other times we're going to be documenting our own story. See, I get sucked into the research and I forget to document my own story. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
going to try to dive into more. Um, let's see. And then, okay, I have one more question for you. This has been so awesome, and I've loved everything you said. And this is a question we're asking everybody we interview. How have you been connecting with your family this year? What's been your favorite way to connect with your family?
Family here or family on the other side?
Either one. Any family.
Well, I mean, I would say that just that being able to have that mentor, like I said, to be able to kind of connect with them, like I said, connecting with them through those stories that I read that I hadn't ever read before about them. And I think I even sent it to my son when he was on his mission, because it was a story about, if I remember right, it was a story about my grandpa when he was on his mission. So I think, it's just been enjoyable to read those stories, to feel that connection. I think if we aren't even thinking about them at all, we can't connect with them. And so something as simple as I'm going to think about them for 2 minutes a day, and then it almost allows for that kind of inspiration to come to you. It's kind of like you're opening up. I'm open. I'm listening, I'm ready, I'm thinking about you. What do you want me to know? Or what do you want me to, I don't know, how can this help me? Or how can you help me? Or those things. So I think connecting in that way and just taking the time to connect is just something that will really help us.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. I'm going to remember that, the 2 minutes of, just thinking about it. And then also my other takeaway was just taking that extra step of, take what you're already doing and then
yes,
make it easier to preserve it. So thank you so much for taking the time with us today. How about you tell people how they can find you? What's your Instagram handle? I think you mentioned you have an awesome new course coming out about digital journaling. How can they find out more about that?
Yep, you can just find me here on Instagram. It's at Heather Cluff Creative. And yes, I'm going to be launching that course on digital journaling. So anybody who's feeling like, I don't even know where to start, or I don't know what to do, or I don't know what my why, or I don't know any of those things, you can follow along with me here, or you can actually get on my email list, which would probably be the best thing to do, through the link in my bio. And then I'll email it out when I'm launching that course. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Well, it was so fun to talk to you. I love your passion for family history, and I love that wall, which I'm going to replicate now.
That's right.
And it's just been wonderful talking to you. So we hope everyone has a good day, connects with their family.
Yay,
we'll see
family
everybody later.
Okay, thanks.